Hello, everyone. I'm Ronan Unchained, and welcome back to the Syndicate, a Star Wars podcast. I'm your host. A lot of stuff went down. If you're a Star Wars fan, a lot of stuff went down, and we have to let out a lot of emotions. Fair warning to everybody: if you can't handle emotional damage stuff, proceed with caution. And c'est la vie, because we're talking Andor, and then later on in the show we'll talk Tales of the Underworld. But something seismic in the Force happened, and so we gotta get it out. But I can't do this alone. As you know, I hate doing podcasts by myself, so I need other rebels. Or you know what? Maybe a rebel and a potential Imperial that we're trying to lure towards the light side. I have Brent, Beth, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
How are you guys?
Wait. Who's the potential Imperial? Who's the potential Imperial?
Here's a cool thing. I met Beth at Japan. For anybody who doesn't know, Beth, TikToker, her stuff is it's amazing. For the uninitiated, please give us a little bit of background of you and your connection to Star Wars, please.
Oh my gosh! Do you want the full history?
If you want, yes. The floor is yours. How much you want to go?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been a Star Wars fan since I was like 3. Big fan. My dad introduced me to obviously the original trilogy for the first time. I was never scared of like Vader or the Emperor. I was terrified of the Dianoga in episode 4.
That's amazing.
So just a little fun fact. And I've been a fan all my life. I started doing TikTok and stuff back in like 2021. And then I had a situation where I always say it's like accidental, Dedra Meero, because I dyed my hair blonde and people kept commenting, oh my God, you look like Dedra, you look like Dedra. And then I started cosplaying her and then it became like a thing. But now I'm just like, after last night, I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, that's me.
Yes, I'm gonna try to pull up it pretty soon. But I met Beth at Celebration the last day, and I tell you, one of the top tier Dedra cosplays, and it was one of the best moments I've had with cosplay because we were trying to pose like threatening. Like again, I was semi trying to be Cassian, and she was Dedra. And we gave this like killer look to each other, and like within a few seconds, we just broke out laughing a little bit. It was like, no, we're not, we're not dicks to each other. We're not being mean, but we have to pose like this. And that was
nice.
That was a sweet moment because we had, the first episode was presented to us at Celebration. There was a panel, and by then, and again, I'm trying to open up the curse too much. I had seen a lot of the season. And so for 3 days, I had to walk around hearing people talk about Andor and me being like, yeah. The revolution will, and yeah, at one point, Beth, she was like, what do you know? And I'm like, so you like Dedra? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, wait,
you're not gonna like her anymore.
Yeah, I was like, she was like, what do you mean? I'm like, just you wait. And so when I thought like, we got to talk Star Wars one day, and she was like, absolutely. So
nice.
Here we are.
Yay.
Again, folks, last warning I'm going to give y'all. We're talking spoilers. You haven't seen this arc, you're missing out, or you are not witnessing some amazing storytelling. Regardless if it's part of a galaxy far, far away, you need to watch this if you're a fan of art and storytelling. So that's the only one I'm going to give you. Also, shout out to Phil. Emotional Damage, that's my no name. Yeah, Phil, I know. I just came by to say hi. We are Gore. The Galaxy is watching. Jeffrey, you cannot throw that quote early on. We haven't even gone to the first episode of the arc, but I appreciate that. That is very sweet.
But we can sing it. We can sing. No. Okay.
Oh, I wish I could sing. Oh, that was another moment that was killer. Okay, so folks, the Gorman massacre occurred. The Empire tried their best to avoid this, but from the get-go, it was like, all right, it's happening. We're getting the what was the thing that Krennic kept saying? Dioxide. I forgot what the mineral, the mineral inside
the calcite.
Calcite. He kept saying, shouting one out. Yeah, and At the same time, Yavin 4 base is up and running, but it's not fully set for war yet. And Cassian is there trying to heal, to do something with what he's at right now in his life, with Bix as well. And it was surreal to see this in 4K. Like, that was like, oh, awesome. Gorgeous. And what I dug is that, like, you see how much tension, even before he left the planet, was about, where are we now and are we doing enough? And you see that he gets asked by Luthen to go and kill Dedra. Sorry, Beth. Get her out. And yet nobody in the know-how a lot knows what's happening there. And this event is going to be a catalyst, no pun intended, to the book, but like I think in my eyes, a defining moment in the war where the Empire showed their cards in a very quote unquote public way that they didn't want to, and yet this really like was the last nerve on people like Mon Mothma and Cassian himself and a lot of rebel cells surrounding the galaxy of just like, oh, fuck this, they're not playing by the rules, fuck it, it's war then. So I'm going to talk the least for the next few minutes. I want to let Brent and Beth let it out. Let's start with Brent. You watched these 3 episodes.
Yep.
It's been, what has it been? Almost 24 hours since it dropped.
Yes.
How are you feeling?
Good. It was so impressive. Actually, it's interesting because I'm a huge fan of Rebels. And the first thing I had to do after watching these episodes was watch the arc from was it Secret Cargo? No, what was
Secret Cargo, season 3.
Secret Cargo. Yeah, season 3 of Rebels, because I just needed that refresher on that episode just to see more. I needed more of what we were given. That's the one thing about Gilroy. He tends to give a certain amount of story of the characters on the here and now, the very moment, but we're almost like we're picked up in the middle of part of the story being told. Cassian's got an injured shoulder, he blasts a bolt to the shoulder. We don't know that story. We feel like we could go back and explore that at some future time, whether it's in a book or a comic or some other media. But we are captured in the middle of a moment of these few days. And I think that's very creative and very telling, because it leaves us open to suggestion as the audience members. And there was a lot of that going on. As for what was actually seen in these episodes, there was stuff that was somewhat predictable, and some stuff that was just mind-blowingly, I didn't see that coming. And I think that was a big part of what I enjoyed about these 3 episodes, this particular arc. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Beth?
Oh, man. I would say, as one of the things I've been saying is just like such a privilege to be like emotionally broken in the manner that we were. Because I just think this resonated so deeply with pretty much everyone who's watched it in different thematic ways. You have people who are really resonating with, the reactions to the Gorman massacre, are really resonating with like Mothma's speech, or really resonating with, kind of like Wilman's own journey. That was something that like I was just, oh my God. But I think that all those ways it's so important because it shows that like we are all the rebellion. And it's one of those moments where you realize that like we're all fighting for the same thing. We all love the same thing. And it hit emotionally more than I think any other piece of media has, like Star Wars or not. And it's just masterful storytelling to be able to create something that impacts people on that level. It's just astounding. And also the acting, like where do you even start with? I was blown away. Just the talent. It's off. Like if this show does not win multiple awards, there's something wrong.
I agree. Again, I was just like, yep. Actor, actress, supporting actress, set design,
production design, costume, everything.
God,
the sound mixing.
Yeah.
Like, again, folks, It's been a while since they met. That's in season 1 that they made a TIE fighter flying over a plaza, creepy as hell, knowing that like either they're just
Kudos
there
to
to
the
make
sound
noise.
effects alone. Just
Yeah.
like the sound effects
Yeah.
of K2SO. Like, I know we're jumping forward, but the sound of him turning on there as he's like powering up, that sound effect was creepy as F. And you know, we got the TIE fighter flying over the courtyard of Gorman, and again, the sound design is more powerful in those moments. It reminds me almost like of A New Hope when the TIE fighters are flying towards the Death Star. That's the loudest I think we've ever got the TIE fighters, because it's like right on top of your, you know, your senses moving past. So it goes back to some of the original George Lucas filmmaking process of what the Empire is supposed to be. They're supposed to be this threat and menacing, and the sound should be loud and piercing. And they kind of lost it a little bit during the course of shows, or hadn't focused as much on it. And this show alone has set that tone just by sound alone, sound and score.
Yeah.
It seems at times like, oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Please.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I feel like the big difference is that the Empire has been played with these comedic moments and these moments of levity so frequently in the pieces of media that we've seen, even as far as, even if we're looking at like the sequels, and the First Order it's been portrayed at a certain tone. And the time you really do see the tone that I think George Lucas was going after, because Star Wars is inherently political. But it really, it just really shows like the evils of the Empire. And I don't know how, if anybody after this is like, the Empire was, you know, completely right. I think that's a red flag.
The fascist talking.
Yeah. Well, for me, I mean, also going with the whole tone of everything, I feel that for me personally, Andor season 1 was too dry, and it needed a touch. I feel like if you're going to deal with serious issues and matters, you need that little bit of comedic humor every once in a while to throw in there to lighten the load, just so you can deal with the intensity of the drama. And I feel like season 2 of Andor has nailed that perfectly. We have had a couple of those, what you'd call Star Wars comedic moments, but just enough that it lightens the load for when you get hit with the really heavy stuff. And you do need that, I feel, in my opinion. And, you know, Star Wars is definitely the lighter tone, but that's also, you know, the child-based element it's targeting as well. For this, I feel like season 2 has been fantastic.
That's what I love about the show and this season. It's saying that like this also counts in Star Wars. You can do those tones that you've been doing. You can do, you know, the Western or the A-Team or, you know, the kid stuff and whatnot. But there are fans who've been here since 77 who have grown up, and whether it's, you know, capitalism or marketing, you need stuff for them so they don't fall off and be like, you know what, it's time for me to hang up. There's nothing new that this galaxy can offer. And like, and I feel, a lot of people disagree with me, but like I feel that this offers something new just because it hasn't been taken this serious. And not to say they've never done serious stuff before. Of course they have. I mean, the Clone Wars itself is a serious show. People, you know, it was always the joke. It's a kid's joke. What are they doing with this? And like, but like, I have never feared the Empire and yet wanted to stand up to them as much as I wanted with this show. The last time in its somewhat capacity was with Rebels. But again, that was under the guise of you know, it was a kid's show and animation. But luckily with that writing and the characters, it made me want to stand up. But with this one, you see stuff that if you're a fan is tracking right. And if you're not a fan, it's an easy way for you to keep up with where we're at and what we know. And yet, although we know some of these people's fates already, it's the journey that has us intrigued, and the journey that at points I'm going, and in retrospect, I'm like, wait a minute, why am I nervous or tense if I know what's going to happen? That's because in the moment, it just pulls you in, whether it's someone talking, whether it's someone giving a look, whether it's someone double guessing themselves of what they've been doing in their lives. So that's the beacon of this show. And I think I would say that season 2 as right now, it's stronger, as strong, and not stronger than season 1, and yet it had time to really take in stuff from canon way more than season 1, in my opinion. There was stuff there, just like, and we'll get into it later, but there's a moment in episode 9 that is clearly setting up, that, oh, by the way, if you're a huge fan and want to keep up, there's another show that has a story that connects with it in a very distant yet subtle way, but it's connective. And it's a tipping of the hat without saying, don't forget to subscribe and follow this. So I love that strength that this show has. And I mean, some of the dialogue in this show is just, like you said, Ben, like there's some stuff that at points it is hard to watch, but that means if it's hard to watch at points, that means there's weight and you care. I feel like.
I found the hardest part. Oh, I'm sorry,
honest. Beth. Oh no, I said it is unflinchingly honest, and it doesn't. It's not afraid to shy away from making the viewer question themselves.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the hardest moments I felt was when Cyril grabs Dedra by the throat. That was more shocking to me than the whole Gorman thing. Was we knew the Gorman thing was going to happen. I was not expecting the fact that Cyril could have snapped her neck at that moment out of this frustration and anger that we'd never ever seen from that character, and the betrayal. And I was just like, I was genuinely like, this is it for her. I was shocked. And beautiful play between both actors. So good.
Oh yeah, it was absolutely. It was that moment was. It was like aggressive. Again, one of those things where you're like, I have actual anxiety, and it's such a great callback to the positions that they were in, like physically at the end of episode 1, or not episode 1, season 1, how they ended together in that weird pose in the shed in Ferrix, and then also what Luke says in episode 7 of season 1 when he talks about the Empire choking us, so slowly that we haven't been able to notice. And I love this concept of the Empire. I mean, literally choking, both literally and metaphorically. It's just great how the writers just carry these little moments and make it just even greater and greater and greater when you come to these like larger thematic elements.
This was one of those moments that, like, when I met you and I saw your cosplay and we had talked a little bit about Dedra and Zero, I was just like, she is.
Oh man, they are a hot mess. They're a hot. Well, they are no longer, but they are a hot mess.
Yeah, and again, I think Jeffrey had said it early on, and he said, "My bad. It's all good." That something like saying, "We are the gore the galaxy is watching." That is verbatim what I had seen in documentaries and movies based on times of the Vietnam War, the civil rights. I've heard the whole world is watching, and so when that was being shot, I was just like, I kept looking at my friend Busy, and I was like, holy shit, dude! Like that is creepily close to home. But that is, as Uncle George said, poetry. It rhymes. This is how that you can portray the Imperials in one way. This is one way that we haven't seen them beforehand.
Yeah, literally just today, I just read an article with Gilroy talking about what the whole Gorman incident, and he quite literally said you could take this story arc and drop it into any part of our 6,000-year-old history of war in the human race, and it would be as relevant there as it would be at any time period where the person with the more power or with the riches or with whatever is going to have a dominating say over the populace and how they want it to run and how they want to control it. And it's never changed, and I don't know if it'll ever will. It's a sad thing, but it's always going to be there. There's always going to be people who are going to stand up and try to fight for it too, fight for the rights of humanity. And we're sadly in the situation. Again.
Yeah, sadly, that's the peril where we're at, and I think that's what I appreciate as much as I went gaga for episodes 8 and 9. You need episode 7 to lay the groundwork of like those who are hey man, I'm doing every can. I'm pulling a 10-hour shift, 12-hour shift. I'm like, what else can I do? And I have a moment that was very meaningful to me. But for episode 7, do each of you have a favorite moment or a favorite character you followed in that episode?
For me,
man.
the moment when they met the healer
Yeah.
was important, not just because it dealt with a element of the Force that they that Gilroy usually stays away from, obviously, with
Yeah.
all rights meaning, but it needed a spiritual sense of understanding, specifically to remind us who Andor is. He is not a believer of the Force, or obviously, Marva was a big, rejection of that element. But also for Bix to be able to listen to that, and you saw that there was this different intake from this spiritual healer that came to both of those characters and set a path for both of them, whether they liked it or not. And I think that was a big part of what led to Bix, obviously making her choice and walking away from Andor so he could be on his right path. And that was a definite needed scene. If that didn't happen, I would have really questioned the ending of episode 9 as to where that all episode 9 where it all played out there.
Yeah.
Where she walked away.
And again, I love that it also balanced what we know of Rogue One, where Cassian looks at Shura and goes, "Is he a Jedi? There's no Jedi here." You're like, "Oh, just Guardian of the Will, just people who just bothering everybody and whatnot." So it's what I'm appreciative of season 2. I'm like, I'm not telling you to come and hang out with us here in the deep canon stuff, but just wave for us. And that was a huge wave. Just saying, I think that to me, and I could be wrong, I hope I can ask him one day. I'd be like, that's Tony being like, for all the fan base, thank you for putting up with my madness. And I respect this fan base more now because I got to tell I think for him, a very personal and deep story. So I felt that was a metaphorical, just salute to them, I think.
Yeah.
What about you, Beth?
Oh man, so many to choose from. But I think mine is similar, but it's where we hear the whole, Cassian, you are a messenger, and also that's obviously the title of the episode. And I think it's so deeply profound because obviously we know that Cassian is eventually the messenger, literally with Death Star. But it's not only that, because we've obviously seen him grow so much throughout the first season. And one of the reasons he's such an effective leader is that he is so good at inspiring others to speak and also lead himself. And I just love the fact that it's not only the physical act of being a messenger, but also this inspirational act of being a messenger too. Tell our story. You are getting this out into the galaxy. And that's something that we definitely saw with Kino and Narkina 5. But I just love that duality concept of him being the messenger. It's so beautiful. And he's also a messenger of hope as well. Just his story, I'm sure once people, and if I don't ever reading the Rogue One novelization was rough enough, but I hope I don't ever want to see an epilogue, but I hope that we understand a lot of people get to hear Cassian's story.
It's again, you get this very espionage political thriller of a show, and yet they have time for characters to tease each other. I'd be like, take off your shirt. I'm like, I'm gonna be late for work. I'm like, no, you do this, or what are you gonna make me do? Or again, I remember people saying I think Dedra is BSing Cyril. She doesn't care about him, and I think for a lot of this stuff,
I did too. Up until this,
okay,
yeah.
Until these moments, I feel I think she does care, and that's whatever is left of any humanity from her perspective is left. It's just this connection of I'm telling you to pack up and get the fuck out when I tell you to get up and get the.
That was the moment I realized she actually cared, and it wasn't just a full false facade on her part.
So I appreciate that. Even Vel coming up and I remember it myself. I'm like, fuck, Cynthia should be here with us. God damn it. Oh, you fuckers. And again, you the show clearly tells us there's these revolutionaries that for a lot of people, even in the Star Wars news, Imperial news, they're called insurrectionists and attackers and whatnot. And then you see the Imperials, and you see these guys, and even Dedra says they look like kids. Or the guy saying, "There's not a man among them, but I'll do my best." And it's just that says a lot about how people build up their armies and how people recruit people nowadays, or have been recruiting people for the longest time. So layers. A show is so good when you can follow the story and not want to, and when I stop watching, and yet part of you is like, did I miss something? Let me go back and watch it again. And be like, oh, I missed this look that Cyril gave to the Gorman man of like, I didn't mean no harm, and he's like, how dare you walk our streets? You know, how dare you speak the word? This was another one of just like the past, and it again, oh, fuck this. I love this crew, but fuck them, because it's like this guy knew what was going down. It was like they want us to antagonize them. This is a poker trap. They have the cards in the house, like they want us to move all in, and just devastating of an episode. And I know they had to switch composers. I think I wasn't mainly the main guy from season 1 that did Succession, but the music as well. I've been really digging the music they've put out through this arc. And what a title to just put, The Messenger. Did you want to say anything, Brent, or no?
No, I was just going to say I actually uploaded the soundtracks for the first 2 arcs, and I believe the third one will be dropping either tonight or tomorrow sometime, and so I'm looking forward to getting that soundtrack too.
And also the completion means I can't lie and be like, I was rewatching this scene and I'm like, where's Phoenix Squadron? Are they here yet? And then I hear it. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Like, is there anybody else that I'm catching up?
Yeah. The fact is, the very early days of the rebellion, we haven't even got Gold Squadron there. Oh, technically, Gold Squadron is there. I guess they're the only few because they were sent off from Mon. But the fact that first, I mean, again, let's just go back to the production design. How well they managed to take the few shots we saw of the interior of the hangar and just like reproduce what we felt in A New Hope. And I know they've had the opportunity to upgrade it, but that entire set with the in the jungle with the little homestead in the jungle, which is freaking amazing. And also, again, it just goes back to this whole element of like how the Ewoks, were connected to fighting the Empire, and how George Lucas set it up. This whole primitive element of where you are, your surroundings, and how that can domineer and overtake a mechanical world of an empire. Is also seen in everything from the architecture to the design, even the Gorman stuff. It's all organic and all kind of, even though it's a modern city, it's still organically shaped. It's round circles. It's all that sort of stuff. Where the Empire's all square and very sharp edges, with the exception of the Death Star, of course. But yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Even like part of me, and I know it was a step. I'm like, I wish I can go to that location, just be like, in a weird way, pay my respects to the Gorman. I'm just like, I just want to go there and pay my respects. Like, and again, genius of season 1 saying Gorman, and I was going, we know what that means. And then we get to this season, and we get there, and it's Beverly Hills, it's the plaza. There's the clothing, there's the spiders in the jar and whatnot, and then you get to the next arc. And you see more barricades around the memorial. And you get to this one, and there's literally like hold up of people being like, identification, please. And it's just like, madness.
I like the use of the bellhop kid that we saw in the last arc, and going back to there with just the delivery line that he's given with rebellions are built on hope, obviously. There you go. Right there, you got it already. It's such a pivotal moment for Andor. I definitely got an emotional element, and again, it's, as Lucas said, it's like it's like rhyme. It repeats itself. It keeps coming back, and it gets passed on to Andor, and then Andor passes on to Jim Erso. So you've got that element of that alone. But even that character's arc, is a side character that's tiny, small, insignificant, but you understood his entire history in the few words that were given from the dialogue of the writers as to who this kid was in this situation. And it connected you more so to that cause of that character, even though you barely even knew who he was, kind of thing.
Yeah,
I
to
love that
me.
moment because sorry,
Yeah.
no, go on.
No, go ahead, please.
Oh, I was just gonna say it really also harkens back to kind of what the Force healer said about Cassian, like you are a person who carries things with you as you belong. And it's like we know that he has Nemec's manifesto and now he has this line and he's obviously learned various things, but it's just like you see the piece of like the formative ideology of the rebellion, and Cassian is the one who's like carrying them both emotionally and physically. And I just it's storytelling element that again the writers are just they're on a different level.
Yeah. Darren, does the goat reply? I don't know what that means. I don't know if you're. I hope Tony Gilroy and Diego Luna and Genevieve Riley would reply to a lot of fans' questions and comments. That'd be cool. I think that Teague says. I think that what Tony Gilroy and his team did was this series was explore the questions of how imperial dictatorships, like in Star Wars, happen in the first place. Yeah, and again, people might come after me for this, but I don't give a fuck. I know there's people who are saying, George Lucas is his way or the highway, or there's no other way to do it. And who knows? I would love to have the privilege to meet him, not just to ask him the dumb nerd questions that a lot of people don't want to, but just thank him in person. That's all I want to just thank him. And if I had the ounce of time and space to ask him, I'd be like, hey, let's talk about Andor. You watching that shit? What do you think? In my eyes, in my hope, I feel like he's probably at home or where he's at. I don't know if he smokes or whatnot. Probably, he's got like his flannel and he's drinking and he's watching the show. He's going, the kid, somebody learned. Somebody looked at what I was doing. Not bad. That's all I want. I'm like him, because I can't imagine him not digging what this show is doing without what the show's doing without dismissing what's coming beforehand, because it doesn't do that. It's just saying we're gonna focus our point of view where you've had it for a while and just stay here for a little bit. Just stick with us for 2 seasons and then we'll go away. And yeah, stuff like that. The fact that a bellhopper kid says that line, and he was, if I'm not mistaken, the second person to reaffirm the Tarkin massacre, which again, that was another moment of just like, they're making it canon, but it's not what's going to trigger the domino effect for Mon and everything else. Like that was genius.
Yeah. And I think we said last week,
the Gorman massacre was going to be bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's how you
knew. Well, but that was the thing is like I as I said last week, I hadn't even heard. I'd heard of the Gorman incident, but I'd never read the book. I'd never actually connected any of that tissue, and I didn't know the time period. So I'm glad they set something in motion of there was another time period where there was a previous massacre. And so, how does that make this one be more horrific? And trapping the Republic inside a square and then sending a whole fleet of stormtroopers and then some KSO droids after them.
The snipers. That was the one I'm like I was like, that was history. That was their wild card. Like, oh yeah, how many times have I heard that there was a sniper at a incident and whatnot? And like, one of the dreads and benefits of social media is that like when something like this has an impact, people will put out, oh, look at this. This is an article of what happened in history. And like this sounds a lot like what happened in this episode of a Star Wars TV show. And it's like I as soon as I saw that, and then you see the kids, the kids, but they are kids, but the Imperial cadets like lining up, and I'm like, wow, they're really gonna like take one of their own out just to start the fire. And so
remember though, I mean, this wasn't just a fire from the Empire's end. This was a fire from Luthen's end too. He let it burn. He was going to let it burn. And so when you consider the fact that to send a message, it came from both fronts, and the same message had 2 totally different meanings, was also a very very well written way of presenting the situation, as tragic as they made it to be.
Yeah, and the fact that it was almost heartbreaking to see Will be the one to carry the message to Cassian of like, you ready to work, or are you just fiddling here with strings and whatnot? And the fact that he was there, and the whole what's it, Stone and Sky,
I seriously thought we were going to lose Will in this episode, in this arc. I really thought Will was done. I'm glad he survived. Okay, all right. This kind of jumps a little forward in things, but
please,
Bix I pretty much had personally called. I feel like Bix is the kind of character that would survive this beyond Andor's, reign of dealing what we see in Rogue One. Now, I don't know what happens next week. Of course, I don't know if she returns or whether she just disappears into the into the woodwork. I imagine if she does disappear into the woodwork, then yeah, we're going to actually see her go on, and future stories can be told about her. And now that Will has survived all this time, he keeps on getting the ladies, obviously, every single time, every planet he goes to, he's got a new woman. Don't ask me. He's just, yeah. Anyway, the ladies, man.
I literally
Yeah.
was just like, I was like, I remember I was talking to him like, is that the one from the fields? And
yeah.
he was like my dog,
No,
like he is a revolutionary, and I was like, oh,
Yeah,
I was like, oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
but at the same time, just
it happens.
Aside, I would like now. I honestly didn't expect Will to survive this, and now that he has, I really hope to see that character survive beyond that. I feel like that you can still have everyone's going. They're all going to die. It's like no, maybe they're not all going to die. Maybe there is a purpose for them post, A New Hope and post BBY. So part of me has now got this hopeful element that they're not all going to die, but we actually might see more survive than we expect. I mean, I feel like Luther needs to die, but I don't know if he's going to die anymore. He was very, very minimal on this arc. So again, I'm sure there's going to be more deaths ahead, just to make everybody happy.
This is a bad transition, but speaking of deaths, that leads us to the second episode called "Who Are You?" This was the one that like I wanted to cry, but I couldn't because I was just shocked at like of what was happening and the fact that they were going for it. The fact that oh boy, the company of oh boy was willing to do this, and I kept looking at like on like the Disney Plus sign. I'm like, this is happening on like this is not HBO. This is not Max. This is not Showtime. I'm like, wow. But yeah, how about this one? For this one, Beth, did you have a moment that you dreaded watching, or was there a line or a character that just like I'm assuming it's Dedra, but I don't want to presume.
No. Oh my God. How do I even begin to choose? Because I feel like this is the one where everything happens. Yeah. I think overall, I really love again, this comes back to just like the names of the episodes, because I think this episode was such a examination of who these characters are under like the worst, most dire circumstances. Obviously we saw Dedra reveal her true colors. We saw Cyril, and he doesn't know who he is anymore. And that's the tragedy of it, that he had potential, and he snapped. He let his like that primitive brain just snap when he saw Cassian. It's like, it's this whole examination of the concept of self, and also like who the Gormans are as a people and who they stand for. And one of the things I loved too is both in like the Gorman chant, when it's like we are the Gore of the Galaxies watching. They're not like fucking higher. It's like it's a unifying chant as opposed to something that's in opposition to the Empire. And it shows not like the fact that they're not agitators. They're not, they're not asking for this. They're still trying to keep things, it's so resonant as to like the ethos of each character.
Their Les Miserables moment where they literally get to
again, I love that she brought that up, but like, because people from the outskirts, people saying, the Gorman, they're so prideful, they just care about themselves, they think that they're the shit and whatnot. And like, I love that transition of like, we're taking back the plaza, and it was the gentleman who had done this, telling people like, if we let this slip, we're not gonna be able to have any a back in this fight. And the fact that he started singing was a cool transition from being just shouting and pointing at them, of like, no, we're singing our national anthem, saying this is who we are. We know what you're doing, and you're not gonna get away with this anymore, no matter what happens. I don't think they wanted to risk all their lives, but if it need be, they were willing to do so. It's just sad that like it literally was fish in a barrel, and I'll go into more of where I felt about where Cass was at and what he was thinking. But Brent, what about you?
For me, the moment of the entire episode was just that moment when Cyril realizes that Cassian pretty much has no recollection of who he was. That us as the audience thinking there's going to be a big showdown between these two characters at some point, and the fact that it's going to be Cassian trying to avoid Cyril and this, and the fact that Cassian doesn't even remember the encounter practically, or would have to stop and think about it because it was like a couple of seconds on Cyril on Cassian's mind in the life of Cassian Andor. And yet Cyril has had this complete Javert, again repeating Les Mis, moment of going after his opponent because he just it's the drive for that character. And it was the shock for me as the audience that Cassian just was like, "Who are you?" And the look on Cyril's face of recognition and realization of his obsession of trying to find Andor right before he's taken out just surprised the shit out of me. It was such a great moment in the story. I did not see that moment coming, and I didn't see the moment of Andor just not knowing who he was or remembering who he was.
Cut.
Yeah,
the
and
biggest worst you could give that character. Yeah.
I like to think, and people have been speculating like he never got the chance to like maybe join the rebellion and whatnot. And for me, that moment when he started putting the bodies down, I think that was the moment where he was like, okay, I was in the wrong side this whole time.
Yeah,
I feel in my heart, and I could be
that was his turning point. That would have been his turning point.
I could be too optimistic, but I feel like he would have been like, okay, fuck you. Mm-hmm. Now, how can I help? I feel like he would have done that. Like how can I help? Mm-hmm. And again, it's these writers are so Dan Gilroy and the whole crew are so like geniuses, brutal geniuses. But the fact that it was the old man who he had been trying to recruit Cyril, not knowing he was a double agent, and confronting him, but like, how dare you walk among us? The fact that he was the one who shot him. Yeah. And just again, and what an amazing fight. Amazing fight of wills.
That was
of like
pretty brutal.
Letting a season of television out. Mm-hmm. Like, it was, and again, the fact that he was in the process of trying to take down Dedra, which I don't think Cyril, like people were saying, he tried protecting his girl. Like, I don't think at that point he didn't care about his, like, he just saw him, was just like, you were the one that put me down this path.
Actually, that's a good question. I was trying to determine. I don't think Cyril even realized who he was aiming at.
Yeah,
and
I didn't think so.
I think that moment was like even more special that he thwarted Andor's plan there or mission, I should say, not plan. But
yeah. There was a really good interview with Solar that came out today where he talks about how he's like, it is like very much a tragedy. Like Cyril's story is a tragedy, and he talks how he's like Cyril became like more Gorman in soul than he was an Imperial during his time undercover, and there was so much potential there, and that's the tragedy, is the fact that he never, is he good? No, he's a very, very morally gray character, and he has plenty of flaws, but it's just like this loss of potential. And I mean, like, not like that. I love that in a narrative sense. I don't love that in like an overall sense.
Yeah, and it's again saying that like even he at one point was like, no, this is not right. What are we doing here? Like he kept saying that to teacher, what are we doing here? Just like why? Like how long have you known? And again, what a back and forth between her of like this was gonna happen either way. Yeah. And again, even pointing the responsibility back at him of like, you didn't mind the promotions. And it's just like him being like, fuck, man, I was so prideful at that one spot in the ISB that like, I did what nobody thought could do. And it's just like, this is also what happens when you slip up and don't really look outside what's happening in your window. Which again, echoes a lot of stuff that's happened nowadays. To me, this is the thing that broke me. This is the look. This and the audio of Will's of the lady who was seeing Will when they were calling out for help, and hearing that, and again, you see, fuck, man, it's so sad. Seeing the father holding the guy, like him knowing that I'm assuming it was his son, dead there, and you see the ex leader, I'm assuming, of the head of the Gorman Front, laying down on the ground, saying, "How didn't we not see this coming?" And we let it slip through our fingers. And again, this is also a look like, oh my gosh, another massacre just occurred. But also, it goes back, in my opinion, to when he gave this look to the bellhop boy of like, an arc ago, I let you guys off. I'm like, no, they're not ready. Like they don't know what they're doing. And Luthen telling him, I sent you there to prep them. Like you just missed them out of hand. And I feel that there's now more weight on Cassian. Be like, I could have prepped them. I could have had a year to prep them and show them how not to engage, how to engage. I'm gonna play devil's advocate here on that thought, and I always kind of felt that moment from Cassian was that he had no power to stop it from happening because he knew it was predestined through Luthen, and Luthen wanted it to happen. And I think it was more of a sadness that he was powerless to do anything about this situation because Luthen was the one that had the power in that perspective, in that relationship of their story. And I always took it from that perspective, that he had no power to change anything. As much as the training he could have given them wasn't going to happen, wasn't going to work, and it wouldn't have mattered. At the end of the day, the incident was still going to happen because it was predetermined, and he had no power to change that. And I think that is the greatest sadness for me in that. I think you got it, because I'm looking at it now, and they've been saying you're going to watch Rogue One differently now after this show.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about it. When he had the sniper on Galen, and he chose not to shoot, and then when Jin confronted him, he's like I had every shot to do it. Did I? And again, back to even when she tells the leaders, like, we got to do this, and he tells her like they were never going to let us into you, and he says we like to volunteer. And I was rewatching the special look because I like hearing, seeing stuff that we already seen, and them using, the line, everything I did for the rebellion. I did it for a cause I chose to believe in. And so the fact that you can maybe even sync that frame, this shot, to that sequence of like he's making his own choice in Rogue One, disobeying orders, taking a freighter that again Draven was hinting at, like, no, but there's gonna be a certain point where you gotta commit fully or not, and how they'll ask, a little discipline doesn't hurt. I feel that he's gonna be so disciplined of saying like there's something we should do that they're not giving us the permission to do so, but we have to do it, and I have a say in it. And I feel like you can easily track that to this moment. I feel like that's a great take, Brent. Yeah, I feel like that's. Oh, I love this.
Yeah, it makes it even more tragic when you look at it. Tragic for Andor specifically.
The tragedy too. I think there's something underneath too, because like of the destruction of Kenari, like that's where he comes from, and his home is destroyed, and that's still part of his identity, even though now he lived on Ferrix. But I think he also recognizes that with the Gormans as well, that it's very, very similar. They are they're forever altered by the destruction of their home planet, and it's a lot of empathy. I saw that moment as just like again, he can't do anything, and it's just so much empathy and grief and sadness.
I like that that comment in that Teague has just made there with Cyril became just another faceless, nameless person in the wrong side. That was also such a that's the tragedy of the character. Someone who tried to be somebody, and someone who had his mother continually pushing him to be somebody, and he became a nobody.
And that last shot
at the end of the day, it was tragically with the mother. It was so powerful. It was so good. Such a great performance. She's fantastic.
Yeah, and again, I even hate saying it like this. I love watching the fallout, because Dedra, she had a fallout where like she from the get-go she didn't want this. She said, I don't want this. Put me on Axis. That's what I want.
Yeah.
And so and again, she I'm not taking anything away from her from that moment of her, because I felt it and I believed it.
Yeah.
But how many times did she, she smiled and kept saying, "We're gonna be rewarded. We're gonna be heroes. We're going home." And to me, what was that was sad to watch and observe, because I felt that was real. And yet it was to me, it was when she goes tucking her uniform in. That's like her drinking the Kool-Aid again of like, no, this is the means to an outcome. And oh man, Denise, just so good, so good.
Yeah.
What a staple! I feel bad now for actors.
Actually, out of
Imperial.
everything that's happened, out of everything that's happened in this arc, I think her character, I'm the most invested in seeing what happens with her story in the last arc next week. I'm curious to know how her story plays out. I don't know if it's going to be a good one. I don't know if it's going to be a bad one. And I'm saying whether she will die or live, I don't know. But I am curious to see how it plays out more than any other character right now, because I've become so invested in that character.
She has nothing left to lose. That's the scary part and the good part. And whatever piece of her humanity that she actually was able to connect with are now dead with Zero.
Oh yeah.
And I think
because she kept looking for him. Like she went out when like they were saying don't go outside, and it's just like But she chose to go outside, and now somebody else is choosing to go outside from the shadows, which leads us to Welcome to the Rebellion.
Actually, can I say one last thing on the last story on episode 8?
Please.
There is, and this is only a tiny nitpick on this episode, was that I feel like there was no motive for Andor to bring in the KS droid. It just, I wish they played on that a little bit more as to a reasoning or a why. It was a matter of like, we just need to fill this void because we know he turns up in the show Andor, and we need to make that connection happen. And that was the only spot in this entire episode I wish they could have played on a little bit more. That was just my personal opinion, though.
I can see that. Though.
Had something.
Yeah. To me, what would help balance that out of like, that might have been like the quote unquote weakest part of the episode, but the fact that it was. And I should have known that, like, by the special look they showed out, there was a special look shot where they show Zero entering that room with a bunch of KX droids.
Right.
As soon as the slimy Imperial just like, let them out, and they went to town and throwing people out. One of the elderly men's the leader, his daughter was just thrown and she cracked her neck, and like the fact that they went full on. And again, I doubt they watched the episode. No, they probably did watch the episode. But the fact that they were like, so in Mandalorian, they chose to make the KX droids and do a full-on Judgment Day opening from T2. What if we do that for this episode and say, like, this is what they've been
that was fine.
Used for as enforcers?
That was fine. It was just that moment when the droid's being hit, broken in half, and he looks at it and goes, give me a hand. It's like, I just wish there was a thought process as to Andor's actual thought process that was said, and not just a matter of, plot point, we need to have him for
demonstration.
And I kind of gathered, even from last week, I was like, I'm guessing we will see KS2O kind of pop in at the end of this arc, because feels like there's a good, by Rogue One, there feels like there's a good year-long story. This wasn't a thing where he's just being pulled in at the last minute and suddenly he's there. So I'm glad that they did it. I just wish they had made the connection of the reasoning why Andor, anything, even like, this could be a useful something, anything. And I didn't quite get that moment, that beat, and it's the only thing that was like, I wish it was played on a little better. But again, it's so small in the nitpicking of anything, because there's hardly anything to nitpick in this show.
I get that, yeah. But Welcome to the Rebellion, Mon and Bale are making the big moves now.
Yeah.
And so listen, just to get out of the way, I love Benjamin Bratt. I love him as an actor. In a perfect world, I wish he would have been a new character, or a character they finally would have brought into
but man,
canon.
he's so good as Bale.
But
He
man,
was so
if you
good.
couldn't get Jimmy Smith for some odd reason,
Yeah.
he picked up the torch and ran with it, because it almost reminds me of, I don't know if you're watching the show, but I'm watching Last of Us. But it reminds me of the dynamic, different but similar, of Ellie and Dina, where Ellie's very passionate, like, we gotta do this, we gotta do this. And Dina's like, wait a minute, what if this happens, this happens? We gotta do this and this and this. And so the fact that like he was, curious to see like what the hell's going on, and they got that poor senator saying, remember Gorman, today is my people, tomorrow it's yours. Seeing them witnessing what's happening and already choosing like we somebody to say something now. And Bale having to step back and be like, we have a plan, but it's got to be you. I need to stay down and make sure, because he kept saying Yavin is not ready yet.
Yeah.
Which is again a bold move.
Yeah.
And I love how he told her that that let's hope that I won't turn into a hostage, but that like nobody's gonna let you talk. And I love even Mon's like listen, you've done wonders in the before. You can make something up. You can work around the rules and get me to talk for a minute. And I just love it. Him telling her like, okay, as soon as you say something, get out and be careful what you're saying. And even the hint of like they're spying on us. We caught something in the room. It cuts to Erskine and her finding the thing.
Yeah.
Which, again, as a Rebels fan, I was just like,
yeah,
wait a minute, that's the guy from the ship that told him about Dantooine. What the hell?
Uh-huh.
So, what did y'all think about Welcome to the Realm? Because to me, this is my favorite episode of the season thus far, and it rivals the episode in the Narkina arc. I think it was the second episode in the Narkina arc, when the whole time Kino just like, I don't know, we gotta keep our hands down, and he tells them, how many Imperials are there? Never more than 12. I think that and this episode are my two favorite episodes of the show. But what are you guys' thoughts on Welcome to the Rebellion?
Beth, go for it.
It's okay. Let it out. It's okay to cry.
I have so many thoughts.
Let it out. I think
there were so many. It's like you get to see different forms of like power and resistance against the Empire. Like you contrast, Cassian and the rebels with what Mon and Bale are doing. Also, Bale saying like, "I'll see you on Yavin" was that foreshadowing. No, don't like that. But I think Mon's speech when she says this is genocide was the moment where I was like, holy, I can't believe Disney allowed that, but that is exactly what it is. She is calling it for what it is. It's an incredible act of bravery to stand up against, I'm gonna start crying, to stand up against the Empire in that way in front of everybody. And it's just so resonant with what's going on today. I was like, speechless. That was the moment when I was like, this is everything.
That word hit home for me, because I'm not putting my head in the sand. I know what's happening, and that's something that like, it's a tragedy that it's relevant now. But yeah, it's. I think that's why I think this show's going to last so many generations. Like, it isn't going to be, in a weird way, a lot of generations like MASH or Band of Brothers or something like that, where like, again, it's not in the real world, but it is bringing up a lot of real stuff that's happening that like a lot of people are afraid to speak up and bring to the front line. So yeah, I echo your sentiments. Brent?
Much like last week's finale episode, the craftsmanship between the editing and the intensity and the music build, they did it just as well in this episode too, because you took what could have been a very boring kind of moment in dealing with politics and this and that, and they made the entire episode extremely tense, and it built on the intention of intensity. And I think I like that more than anything. I mean, obviously, between performance and everything else going on, they did such a great job between the editing with that. Everything came together, and you literally feel like you're sweating. Your palms are sweating as you're getting to the end of the episode. You know how it's going to play out. We all know that Mothma is going to survive. but they still managed to hit the right nerve points of that barely escaping off the planet kind of deal. I think that was pretty remarkable, because I don't think I've felt that tense in a Star Wars, outside of previous Andor stories. I've not felt that tense for a very long time with stuff. So yeah,
We got tensed up watching someone leave a building.
Yeah,
You know how hard that is too?
Yes.
Someone leaving a building was as tense as being in the middle of a
Mhm.
war zone. Like that is
And
like
symbolically, something very interesting happened too. As Andor was walking out of the building with Mothma, and she drops her blue cloak. It's the last time we ever see her that I'm aware of in anything but white, which means that all the color that was representation of who Mothma was left on the Senate floor as she walked out the door. And I think that was also very powerful too, a very powerful thought. And I didn't catch it the first time around. And the second time, I'm like, oh, she dropped it. Now she looks like she does from Return of the Jedi, but she's only ever looked. And then it took me a second to realize that, any part of her element of who she was as a Changelan is out the door. It's gone. She had to leave it behind.
It was literally
that was
place move.
Yeah.
And before we go to the speech,
she's like everyone. She represents all of the members of the rebellion.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I want to give a big moment to that speech in a bit, but I do want to say this before we get to the moment. We get, I think, the first time Luthen appears in this arc, and he's there in plain sight, no wig, no, collective, it's going down. You need to listen to me. And her standing up to him and being like, you've told me to be afraid of and not trust anybody. I'm not more afraid nor trust anyone less than you now in this moment.
Yeah.
And it was sad, brutal, honest, and sad to see like this is a reflection of your work that in the long term is for good cause, but you took the white gloves off. And seeing her outside in the building because the driver is waiting for her, and the bugging and Erskine telling go practice, and again even him revealing Erskine's been on my staff, and her being like the whole time he's like he tried telling you, but like, and again this sadness
he wanted to tell you.
She's been in a web for so long and she didn't realize she was in a web. And that notion of like him, even Luthen saying, I know I owe you. And telling her like, you can't trust Bale's people. Like, you got to do this. I'm sending you someone I know, someone I can trust. And again, the delivery of like, I have friends everywhere. Remember that. And the confrontation between Mon and Erskine, that was sad because I feel like he sees her almost like a mother figure. Like, he took me in. And that the whole you're dismissed immediately, and it's been an honor, like trying to protect you. And again, even Layla, right? Luthen's compadre, like her talking to Cassian, him saying I'm done. Like, and again, valid points. When have I not delivered? He's like, I need to start making my own choice. And she says, I thought that's what we've been fighting for. Like, him having that fit is valid. I understand it completely. After him, especially escaping, and even her words, you just escaped a massacre. And the woman we're asking you to help out, she's giving everything away to let people know about that massacre. And again, it's as much in her character, but saying, go tell her how hard and how much you want to leave by. And it just, I don't know. The actress who plays Layla, she needs to, I hope she gets to do more press now. Like, I'm going to be like, hey, you haven't done any press. Let's talk to you, please. Your character needs a lot more highlight than it's been garnering, in my opinion.
She was right out of Rada too. She hadn't done anything, and that's the most incredible part. And she's like, I love Clea. I hope that we get to see more. From all the like interviews and stuff, they say we get to see more of her in the next arc. So I'm curious to see her be full on amazing.
I can honestly say this is the first time I've walked away from an episode going, I don't know what Luthen's purpose is anymore. I don't know what his motivation will be outside of just been able to keep things flowing. But I feel like that he has done what he set out to do for the most part, and I don't know what is to come next week. And I think that's the thing I'm also anticipating a great deal of how does his arc play out. As much as I'm excited to see Dedra, and I don't know anything about Luthen. I don't know where his arc goes at this point in time. And so that's where it's going to be interesting to see.
I think, sure, there's what is left to Luthen, but I feel like whether he sees it or not, I think in a maybe messed up or complex way, I think he is a father figure to a lot of people, especially Cassian. Like this moment when like it's the morning of, I shouldn't have told her about Erskine, and like we don't know if she's gonna speak. We don't know where she's at. They're trying to find her. Like, where is she at? What's the plan? Are we getting her out or not? And him telling like, you haven't burned any bridges yet. He's like, that'll change today. And him being like, they're gonna find you, Luthen. And again, simple, truthful, and brutal. We're gonna hang. You and me, we're gonna hang. We knew that the day that started the day we met. Is like, and him telling like, speak for yourself. I'm making my own choices. Like, you always been there when I've asked you. What's so different now when I'm asking you in this moment? And I see it as a messed up, complex father figure relationship right there. When, and again, this is
he's been that to Val. He's been that to everybody that he's had in this connection. And
this is the same season where Cassian confronted him in broad daylight and be like, you just broke protocol. It's like, no, you went to talk to my the love of my life without my permission, without telling me. And like to see him still care for him in this moment, I'd be like, you got to get out. If we're gonna do this, we got to get out. You say something, Beth?
Oh, I just think this is really the first time we've these moments of like Luthen's humanity, like at the end when he's like, get Will to a doctor, like that was what he wanted Cassian to do. I also think like give Vix and Cassian the information about Dr. Gorst, and whatever happens. But it's like you really get to see these like little moments of his humanity, and that's what terrifies me about the last arc. Because it's like, yes, he has a purpose, and now he's becoming more human. And he's just another fascinating character that I hope
wonderfully played.
Did I read it wrong? But in this sequence, were they talking about like, okay, if they arrest Mon, what do we do? I read it that like they were willing to like kill her if she got caught. I could be wrong.
Really?
There was two looks of like, and if she gets arrested, and there was just silence. A look on Luthen, a look on Cassian, and a look on Kayla, and like, which even that breaks my heart. Of like, they were also ready to kill her if she got caught. Like, there's too much. I think Kayla was in it. The whole thing goes down.
Yeah, there's too much at stake.
And it's goodbye. This goodbye. Go ahead, Brent. You were saying anything?
No, I was just going to say that I didn't necessarily take it that way. I took it more the fact that if she does go down, then that's it for us. We're all done. I didn't necessarily take it as we'd take her out if she gets captured kind of thing.
Okay.
At least I didn't. Maybe I need to rewatch that part again just to, it's the end of the night and we started late when we did our reaction. So it's just like,
I get it.
my brain went into editing mode straight afterwards. It's like I haven't had the chance to recatch some of that stuff, but I didn't pick it up as that in the first time round at least. So.
And this parting, this goodbye of friends of like, like if you're brave enough to leave, if you Montes, if you're brave enough to stay, I should be brave enough to leave.
Yeah.
And him wearing that very Clone Wars costume, which am I right, Brent? Like that's Clone Wars, right, Beth? Like that feels like Clone Wars.
I feel like it's typical of Bail Organa's kind of general dress wear.
Okay. And the whole talk of like her trying to confirm him, like, do you know the people who are getting me? I was like, no, I can't. It's dangerous. Her going, fuck. And without saying that, but again, that whole thing of like in a year, we'll see in a year in Yavin, and like take care of yourself, Bail. Which I haven't read the book yet all the way, but I've heard that even in the most recent Mask of Fear, they didn't always get along, right?
No. Have you read it, Brent?
I have not. No, I'm not a huge reader. I'm very dyslexic, so I take about a year to read a book. So I gave in.
It's one I highly recommend it because it ties
Okay,
directly, obviously directly to Andor. But
Right.
yeah, they both have very different ideologies about how to go about a rebellion and how they should.
Interesting.
And it's, it's set kind of right after fall of the Republic. And so it's very interesting to see them finally come to one sort of conclusion. But and then you just see that continuation of their friendship, knowing kind of what they've gone through to get there. And if anything, it just like enriches their dynamic more. So highly recommend.
Cool.
Okay, I'll put in the to get list as soon as possible because I was considering getting it to read it on the flight to Japan, but by then I had seen some stuff and I was just like, okay, I don't until I see the show as a whole, then I'll go back and visit it because I don't want to start smelling something in advance of character development or whatnot. But to me, people might still be off-putted by then actually saying it, but it's the line, we do what we can, tear the shit out of this place. Like I was like, oh.
Yeah,
my Democrat. Like where were you? We need you, man.
Oh my God, right?
Keyblade says that, okay, I'm back and watching the last episode of this week's episode. Yeah, like please, we're talking about that right now. So like tread lightly with what we're saying. I was watching it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also shout out to the Imperials actors. Like them being like, no news, no feed, nobody talks. And like immediately trying to shut down the feed and locking the place up.
Oh yeah.
And again, you even see the people behind the door of saying like, you gotta open up the door. It's like it can't.
Okay, wait. Was that Luthen's people? Do you think? I feel like it was Luthen's guys
I think
that were there.
Probably. But
They
I love
shared
that
glance.
He set them in place to make sure these things wouldn't. Yeah, it felt like.
And also Lonnie sending, like, they were like, oh, that's Lonnie's or that's Young's agent. That's the agent. Clearly, she was not a good ISB agent, so he picked her deliberately because she would mess up. And it's like,
right.
Yeah, with the
we have our assassin too.
Yeah.
We have the assassin in there too, which was kind of cool because part of me's going, wait, Bale messed up. How could Bale mess up getting some protectors to make sure she's safe? It's like, damn, that's a deep dive to saying Bale still is not fallible. That he is still fallible with with information, even though we know him as Bail Organa kind of thing. So that was kind of a cool human element of him that he'd let that slip somehow in the process, especially when he says, no, I haven't met them. I was like, whoa, that's not, that's a big one.
Again, shows you protocol of like, can they know each other? And just being like, we have a plan and whatnot, which again, it leads up to this cool moment of just like, do I know you? He's like, possible. I have friends everywhere. And I just acknowledge me like, okay, she threw me out, but like, I'm here to help you. Whatever you need, we need to get her out. And him even saying, I'm the last person she wants to see. Go up the escalator and be ready there to meet her. And again, as someone who's like, Cassian and Mothma have been my favorite characters of the show, I was like, they've barely been in a scene together. Like the last time this was happening was in Rogue One.
Yeah.
Which they highlight in the Declassified episode of like Genevieve saying like, we never been in a scene, or Diego being like, we never been in a scene together, but we've been in the same show in parallel journeys. And the fact that this is the first time they're going to meet. And I love that the speech is doing so much work for the galaxy, for these factions, and yet for the people and individuals, from the car driver hearing the speech go about the lies, the truth. Once the truth is lost, that is when evil wins. And you see Cassian listen to her, and that whole notion of like, I'm done. I think that was a little like, he probably would have shut off like, this is the last job, and then a flicker of light lit up in him as soon as he heard those words from her, being like, so this is okay. Maybe this is someone who's worth fighting for, saving. And again, it was from the trailer. I've been waiting to see this speech of like, the monster will come for us all, and Emperor Palpatine. And I've been seeing it. I'm still catching up with reactions. I've been seeing it across the board. People, when she said that, people were cheering. People were hauling. I'm like, damn, she had the balls and the guts to like file out, say something that nobody else has. And I love that they showed the rest of the chamber. People, taunting her, yelling her, and just Bale just there, just smiling and be like, that's my homie. And even the older lady who I believe is a
Yeah.
relative of hers or someone from the first arc that like just looked at her and like again just silent acknowledgement.
I
Like
always got that
somebody
she was
finally
just
said it.
another senator, but I don't know.
I think
Yeah.
she looked like one of the older couple from the first arc, but I think it was just acknowledgement of it, like finally someone said it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the fact that it was Mon,
Yeah.
and also the editors, kudos to the editing, because her getting from the pod to the center of the chamber, that was a stressful hell thing of like, okay, please, someone close the door, don't let nobody
Yes.
on, let
Yes.
her, like, don't let
Yeah.
them make sure the mic is
Don't
on.
shoot.
Yeah,
Yeah, don't let the
Yeah.
feed cut out. Don't let it. It was
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
stressful.
Yeah.
So to give that speech a moment, how do we feel about that speech? I think that's another one right there of monologues. All right, it's up there with Luthen.
Yeah.
I burn my life for sunrise I will never see. I think the whole notion of truth is right up there in my
Yeah.
opinion.
For me, it got to be
Yeah.
the speech we never got to hear in Rebels, because we do get a snippet of, and it's a slightly different dialect of speech in the Rebels arc that we see at the end part of that arc, kind of thing. But we get to see two different speeches in two different shows, one being animated, one being live action, and both of them made me tear up in relevance, because it is that moment of Mon Mothma became that moment of hope that the galaxy was looking for those who were, that were, under stress and being, destroyed by the Empire and everything like that. So that's where that moment came from for me.
Yeah, it
What about you,
did
Beth?
solidify her. It just solidified her. I mean, again, like props to the writing team. Even thinking about that speech makes me tear up, but it just solidified her as like the perfect leader for the rebellion, because she has the most, it's just like the most pure, real, like raw ideology as far as just identifying things for what they are, not getting into like the little, and we've seen like little fighting the rebels, and obviously, the different groups have their different ways of going about it, but you can just see that like she really does become this emblematic leader of good versus evil. And it was just a beautiful moment to see her step into that. And I think it's something that she's been like a little afraid to think at times, but for her to actually muster up that bravery and be like, no, this is what I'm going to do. It was just this beautiful, powerful, incredible moment. Like we knew we were getting it, but I don't think we knew we were getting that level of it.
Yeah. Like she's been holding out. If my math is right, 18 years between New Hope, so this is what, 16 years, 15 years? Around 15, 16 years. So she's been holding this for over a decade. She's been holding this in for over a decade, and probably even longer between the war, where she and Bale were one of the few were trying to get the separatists to like finally like come to terms, and it was just Palpatine being like, nah.
You got to give kudos to George Lucas that he had the insight to include a very small bit character from Return of the Jedi, as Mon was, to write something for that character existing back just so she had a connection with Bale and all that. Unfortunately, seeing it only in the deleted scenes footage and not really getting to see her, do anything and be that actress who is now become even bigger than the original actress who played the character in Return of the Jedi. Kudos to Jennifer O'Reilly. She is fantastic. She's just
like brilliant. How lucky were they to get her like in Revenge of the Sith, having no idea that she would be
Cutter.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Like how lucky.
Yeah.
It's just so crazy. I love it.
And even when the Blu-rays came out for Revenge of the Sith, a few years, a year later or whatever, and I saw these deleted scenes for the first time, I'm like, this stuff is gold. I really wish this had all be left in the movie, because it set up a character. And then, of course, he goes on to, do the Clone Wars, and we have the occasional moment with Mon in that. And I think, she does appear in Clone Wars, I think, from memory.
Yes.
And then she appears again. Yeah, of course. Yeah. And then she appears in Rebels later on. But I've enjoyed that journey of that character. And this is like every character in the Star Wars universe. We have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And we're getting to see this middle part of her story that I feel like we never knew we needed, but we really need. We needed this story, from her perspective.
Yeah, Andor's the best thing to ever be seen on screen. I agree, Jackson. Beth doesn't even look Japanese. I don't even know what that means, Jackson.
I don't know what that means either.
Cool. I like the first comment. I don't know about that damn comment. But yeah, that leads to the escape. And again, we talked about how like trying to get out, and the fact that like Cassian told her, calm her, like not even calm her down, but just trying to give credential of like, I know your cousin. And she's like, anybody could have said that. And like, but they're the last survivors of that heist that lit you up to confront Luthen of like, this is you. We were supposed to be quiet, not out in the open. And I love that moment of saying, like, I know Luthen can be hard, but if he's right, essentially, come with me if you want to live. He gave her the Kyle Reese, moment right there. And I'll say it later on again, but seeing Diego be the one to stand up, to be there from I'm saying this. I'm saying Diego stand up for Mothma. You know how much that means to someone who looks and sounds like me. Like that was the sweetest spot. That is punk rock metal right there for me. And kudos on Erskine be like, she's a rebel spy to that one assassin, and they just shoot her up and whatnot.
I like that.
Moment.
Timing is everything when it comes to these characters, and I'll put up right now as soon as I can. But the minute, and I love truthful, even in the time moment when Cassian tells her, "Don't run, just walk quickly," and her saying, "You kill that woman," and her saying, "I don't know if I can do this." And what is Cassian's response? Welcome to the rebellion. That's all of it. Now we don't know. We don't know how we're gonna do this, but we know we got to do this. And I love that was almost an intimate and honest moment between two people that don't know each other, but have been fighting equally hard, in my opinion, in different manners. And I don't know. There was, you could see in the reaction that I did, but like as soon as he says "Welcome to Rebellion," me and Busy lit up like kids in Christmas. We were like, "Fuck yeah, welcome to the Rebellion!" Like it is on. Like it is on. I don't know how you guys felt about that moment.
My reaction a split second before he said those lines, I said, "This is the rebellion," I think it was, or something like that in those terms. Then he said, "Welcome to the rebellion." I'm like, yes, that's exactly the moment that's the feeling I got at that moment. Was now your old life is shed away, and you're going to have to deal with a very different lifestyle and a very different outlook on the way you operate as a human being, because this is no longer the Senate. You're in the Ewok village right now of having to take care of the Empire, and that's exactly what she would have had to have adapted to. And again, next week, I don't know what kind of arc we get to see. Obviously, it's getting close to Rogue One, and I don't know what her mission or purpose will be outside of just being there. So I'm curious to see how that plays out next week. And I'm sure they've got something. They need her to be doing something than just standing there going, this. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
It was such a humanizing moment. It was like, I think it really does remind you, because again, you see these characters as characters, but then we also get to see them as people. And I think having those moments of uncertainty that's what makes this show impactful, because if like, any one of us were in the same situation, I think we definitely feel the same way. We're like, I don't know how we're gonna make this happen. And I love the like human moments.
Yeah, and again, I said early on, but him, even playing up Cloris, Cloris, we found her, tricking the driver and shoot him up, and her being like, oh shit, and that look of like, look at me, give me your hand, and her trusting him to give her his hand and being shocked and then running away. That is World War II, got to get out of Nazi Germany, espionage, the KGB are after us, whatever may have you. Like, that was sweet, man. And I said it, but like, and from my two lenses, a rebel intelligence officer rescued her. But also, my mind, a Mexican saved Mon Mothma in Star Wars. You could take that to the bank. To anybody who wants to, who cares any crap or whatnot. Like that was, you have no idea how much that meant so much to me. And I was just like, holy shit, man. Shit, we come in the clutch, even in the galaxy far away. Like, damn. And I'll load up images later, but that gets to, they just know, okay, she got away. The Empire's like, fuck. And Clea, when they reach to Cassian's old house, she's like, you did it, you made it. And you see Will banged up, and they're making the move of like, all right, what's gonna happen next? They want to get her out of here in a Yavin ship. They're trying to change the story, which again, fascinating. In the middle of something that's pivotal to the rebellion, even then they're having their own gripes of like, no, she's gonna come in our ship, and it's gonna go like we rescued her and whatnot. But I love that she had that moment with Cassian. I'll pull it up later, but like that moment of like, you used to live here, and her even noticing, oh yeah, he's comfortable here more or less, and her trying to say like, I don't know how to thank you, and just make it count, make it worth it. Like that is. And that look on our face of like, yeah, my old life is gone. And again, in the ride when they get the speeder or the ship out of the Senate, she looks back, and like that's her saying goodbye to her life. But even that moment when he says make it worth it, it's her saying my old life is gone, but someone right now who I just barely met committed murder or / self-defense, depending on people want to see it. And he's trusting me with his future. He's trusting me. He's saying, I put my life on the line for you because I heard you, and I'm believing that you have the means to do something big for the galaxy. So, I'm trusting you. And that look, she doesn't nod. She doesn't say yes. She just looks. It just looks at him and be like, okay, this is the job now. They make their way back to Yavin base. Draven says that we're not going to log this off. This was just a quote unquote secret op, if you will. And I gotta admit, Brent, Beth, the nerd in me, as soon as he said, Gold Squadron is going to bring her in, I was just like,
Rebels.
I was like, yo, that means I can literally pop in secret cargo after this episode, which I did, and a lot of people I've been hearing people did that. But there may have been a victory today, but it also comes at a cost with commitment to this revolution. And I felt something was off when he got home to Bix, and when he was telling her like, I'm done, I'm done with his life, I want to be with you. And she didn't say anything, and I was just like, I was like, oh no, what's gonna happen? And as soon as I saw him waking up in the bed by himself, I was like, no. And that message was, my heart goes out to Adria. I don't know what she went through during those takes, whatnot, but like, saying goodbye, knowing that like, he's smooth enough to convince her or sway her away, so she didn't even wait till him waking up, but saying that, like, listen, you need to commit all this away because I believe in you, and I know someone else who we just randomly met believes in you, that you're meant for greater purposes, that you're going to do something big for the fight, and that our time, it's not now. We have to wait. And
a time that she will sadly, and the fact that it's a time that if we don't see her next week and nothing happens, then it's a time that if she does live on, will never happen. And that's
I am doing my best not to cry again, man, because that literally, that was so heartbreaking. I'm like, I get it, and that makes sense, but like even him running while her saying her message, that was brutal director. How dare you break my heart like that after making me cheer for you? And because we have to win, and I'm choosing for us. I'm choosing the rebellion, and that music. Whew,
the music was great in that scene too.
The look on Diego when they're saying, we gotta clear the area for a freighter. He's like, the transport, where is it? And saying they're gone, they left, and that was sad. Am I the only one who was sad? I don't think I'm the only one that was sad.
No, he's also wearing the same shirt he was wearing on Scarif. Which is
God damn it.
Oh, really? I didn't catch that. Oh,
no. Same shirt. And I was like, I hate this foreshadowing. I love it, but I hate it. It's so painful. It's so painful.
I like that, the reference of like, you caught that. That's sad.
It's so sad. It's so sad.
How long do you think? I'm gonna pose this question. How long do you think Bix has been planning to probably do this? Was it after they met the healer, or was it beforehand?
Um,
I think
it was the
after.
heal.
I think after
I
they
think,
met the
yeah.
healer.
The
Right.
healer gave her clarity. She didn't know what to do with everything till then. That's my thought.
Yeah. And she has that moment, I think, after the healer talks to her, where it's a beautiful, again, just like the acting in the show. But she has this like beautiful moment where you can see her processing something, and I think that's when she decides, like, this is my new purpose.
Yeah.
And I think it's also, if we see her again, like I was like, I'm so sad because Adria is amazing. But if we don't see her again, I'm okay, because I think that's the best possible end for her, and her having agency over her end. Because everyone's like, oh, they're gonna kill Bix, but like, I just love the fact that she has agency and she made the decision. I'm going to live.
Yeah. It certainly
felt
be
hard.
Like it was an end to her character's story. The way they left it there. I'd be surprised if she does turn up next week, because I kind of want her to, go on and lead her life and live her life and continue on and do what she needs to do within the realm of the rebellion and post-rebellion. It's not all about death. Star Wars is about hope, as they say. There is a hope element to everything, and why would one show or one showrunner do the reverse and take everything away from that hope? Because apart from Rogue One, where everybody literally died, I guess, but I'm saying, like he created a wealth of characters over this last 2 seasons of other characters we know nothing about. So why would every one of them be expected to die? And that's what a mentality of a lot of audience members seem to be going in, is like, oh, they're not in the Rogue One or beyond that, they're all dead. No, they just don't have to cross into the path of that story by Rogue One and beyond that. And we've seen it before. I mean, and again, I keep saying with Star Wars, every 5th alien in the background, or every 3rd droid over here, they all have a story to tell. We may not be necessarily privileged to be told that story, but they feel like they, because of the world that George Lucas created, they feel like they deserve the right to have a story that could be told at some point in the future. And that's, how we get Aurora Singh, who is just this background alien in The Phantom Menace, who gets an incredibly cool, fun arc across the board there. And so it made me realize, I think that was the character that made me define the fact that everyone in the background, everyone who's a secondary character, has such a cool arc to be told in the Star Wars universe. I don't get that from most shows. Usually they're just a background character and that's it. And but Star Wars, I care enough to know who these people are, what they've done, who they interact with, who they don't interact with, and where their paths lead, and leave it up to whatever storyteller in whatever medium decides to tell that story. And that's where I kind of, I leave off with Bix, in my opinion. It's like, if I don't see her next week, if they don't purposely give her an ending, then that is her moment of, I'm moving on and I will do my own thing, and somebody else will hopefully pick up on that story. And even if there is a situation we see her next week and she's killed off, then we have a year of story to be told by some other person in the future about what she does and where she goes and everything else, and be filled in those little gaps.
I'll make a vow right now that if I ever have the privilege to work at Lucasfilm and tell a story, and it happens to line up around the same time as Rogue One, as Rebels, and as Andor, and if we're in Yavin Base, I'm not. Who knows if I have the money or the time, or if it's actually right to do so. But at the very least, I'll have someone passing through the Yavin Base. I'll hear. We'll hear Captain Andor. Please report to intelligence. Captain Andor. And to me, that is a sweet spot. That, like, if you've been a fan, oh, he's there. And if you're not a fan, you're like, wait, why are people flipping out on it? I'm like, well, go watch these 2 seasons in this movie, and you'll know why. You'll know why
Right.
that name means a lot to us now.
Yeah.
Just shout out to Adria and to Diego.
Oh god.
Him, that look on him, like not trying to
Amazing.
cry in public, but like
Yeah.
knowing he's broken, and her saying like, "This is gonna hurt, but I have to believe that this is the right move now." And what a juxtaposition between losing someone you care about, and then you rebirth in a way someone that you're gonna have a connection for the next
Yeah.
next year, and a
Mhm.
movie that came out
Mhm.
almost 10 years ago, which is fucking nuts to
Yeah.
realize. And I just love hearing Alan be like, "Hello, if I offended you, please, I apologize, but please point that gun somewhere else." And just that ending shot of just like, "Huh, okay." Next, back to work, and
Mhm.
oh, this arc, I
Ugh.
love this arc,
It was-
yet it's brutal.
Yeah.
The ending was like perfect with that moment of levity with K2, because it's like
Oh,
you're
yeah.
devastated and you're like, oh, okay. It's so just the way the writers played with the humor, and
Mhm.
it's just like the perfect parallel.
Yeah,
I-
we
I
already
was gonna-
ended last week's
oh.
episode, our last episode, with a tragedy of look of a mother fearing she lost her son in this massacre that's being televised in Imperial News. Like, how about in this
Mhm.
one, we
Yeah.
we a little bit of levity and then a hint of what's to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beth, I was going to say, did you get to see Diego Luna over in Japan, like up at the live stage or anything like that? Or
I saw him at the live stage. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, that
He was amazing.
I
just
didn't get to
just hearing him
Japan.
and Alan chat.
Yeah, no, I was lucky enough here in Celebration in 22 in Los Angeles, because I didn't get to Japan, but I was pretty much like about 15 feet away from the live stage at the time when Diego Luna and Genevieve O'Reilly was there, and they walked out, they did their thing, and you could see the, like, I think it was possibly the first, probably the second time Diego Luna had had an audience of that size, but it was incredible to see the appreciation, obviously, on his face, and obviously Genevieve as well. But there was just a special moment at the end there. A random fan had a Andor poster and passed it over to see if he would sign it, and he literally like reached over a 4-foot gap between the stage and the barrier, grabbed the poster and signed it and passed it back to this fan. I'm just like, that's so cool. He didn't have to do that, but it seems like Diego Luna has been so wrapped and involved in the love of this character over these last 10 years that you can see that admiration and appreciation towards the fans. But just to see that live and to see someone like that talk live, and it was fantastic for me. It was great to see.
He did something similar in London, and that time I wasn't there in the room when it happened because I was doing stuff. But like him and Tony were there, and even in Tony, you could look at him, because at one point I think it was Christine, I forget her name, the host interviewer said, "One way out," and he chuckled, and then the audience just started yelling, "One way out, one way out." It's not edited. You can go back. You can catch him going saying, "Oh fuck," and then Tony like looking around and being like, "Oh shit, people really into the show. This is not just a marketing ploy." And Tony, I bless him. He's not afraid to swear, but he's like, "Listen, no bullshit. You guys are letting us do this, so give yourself a round of applause. Like y'all are willing to like hang out with us in this very bleak setting, bleak storytelling." So like, I that was. I remember. I'll never forget it. That Anaheim, where Brent. We probably hung out there, but like, I remember seeing the first teaser for Andor. Beforehand, I was like, I'll watch it, and I love Cassian Andor from Rogue One, but like, I don't know if this is something that like I was seeking out for. And as soon as the first time I saw that first teaser with the bang, and I'm so glad that like they keep using the bang as 1 year later, BBY, so and so. When they started playing that teaser for that first season, that just flipped. I was just like, oh, they're getting to do this? I'm in. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know if it's going to work. I'm in. As soon as I got that taste of what this show can do, that was a selling part for it. And I hope they keep showing up here and there in celebrations or other events, because Andor is special. Andor is a completely special show that I've said it. It's gonna stand the test of time. Like people will go back to it and be like, "Whoa!" Hopefully by then it's not it's not as relevant on the day to day. Hopefully stuff just gets better. But like, wow, this stuff tracked with a lot of stuff that happened before it came out and while it was coming out.
Yeah. It's you can really tell how much the cast and the creators do care about the show, their characters, the story that they're telling, and how much of themselves they've really given this project over, how many years at this point. And it's just beautiful. There's a speech, and I'm sure like it's on YouTube, or I'm sure you can probably find it, of Diego talking to the audience at the premiere in LA, and he's like, about how special it is when you take words on a page and you get to bring them to life, and what that means to not just them but to everyone. We are so lucky that we get to do this, that we get to tell this story, and you can just see like how much love and care they put into it. And it's just like
I
agree. All right, folks, so that's going to conclude our talk of Andor season 2 for this arc. We'll be back next week to talk more about it, but we're going to go just a little bit longer to talk Tales of the Underworld. Now, Beth, if you need to go, or if you don't want to hear our stuff, that's fine by me. Just let me know. Do you want to do that, or do you want to stay? Want to hear it out?
I am unfortunately going to duck out because of spoilers. I'm going to try and watch it, but I have not caught up with it. But I've heard it's very good. So
it is all good.
It's actually one of my favorite tales to date. So I personally enjoyed it.
Okay.
Yeah. I personally enjoyed it a lot.
Beth, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to hang out with me.
Thank you.
Talk, it was such a. This is when we've had this much fun talking Andor, I think that was a gift, us running into each other at Celebration. I hope it's not the last time that we talk or that we run into each other at Celebration. Please tell people where people can find you, plug your stuff, because especially your TikTok, I think it's amazing.
Oh, so yes, I definitely, it was such a privilege to get to run into you at Celebration. So thank you so much.
Yes.
You can find me on TikTok, mara.j.skywalker. And you can find me on Instagram at mara.j.skywalkers, because I accidentally saved the other username and access it again. And those are my 2 social media things right now. We're trying YouTube, but I keep forgetting to upload on there. So we'll get there. Same username.
Yeah.
Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure. Such a pleasure.
Go check out her stuff. I'll put it up right now. If you can, it is what it is. But if you want to come next week for the finale, the Mi Casa Su Casa, and I recommend you do, because it's going to be a lot. You got to talk about stuff.
I would too. If I'm alive, I would love to.
Beth, thank you so much. Take care of yourself, and may the force be with you.
May the force be with you.
See you later.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
It's so fun. She was so sweet.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's not the last we see of her in the podcast, but we'll go into a little bit, and then we'll probably talk more about it next week, because I gotta work on some stuff. But but it was good. Andor needed that stuff. Brent.
Oh yeah. Yep.
We got another Tales. And
we got another Tales every year on the May 4th. That's great.
And I think this is up there. I rewatched it again, and I'm like, it's climbing up there with Jedi for me. I think to me, still Jedi is my favorite one, but this one, especially the Bane one.
Whew. See, for me, the Ventress one was a little bit more, and I'll explain that in a second. But
that's fine.
Ventress for me was a little bit more powerful. They took a different format when they did the Ventress story. Each of the stories they've done before seemed to be like somewhere way in the past, somewhere in the present, and somewhere in the more or less future of their life. This felt like, for me, a great build-up for a brand new series that they could continue on with Ventress, because it pretty much took a singular path from the point of dark disciple onwards for the next few weeks of her life, or the next month of her life, kind of thing. And it's set up so much for me that I want to see. We've seen, obviously, before in the past, the Padawan teacher relationship in some form or another. We saw it obviously with Kanan Jarrus and Ezra Bridger. We've seen it with all these other characters, But for me, Ventress having a Padawan, or at least a Jedi teacher, learner, I'm curious as to how that's going to play out, and I want to see that story so badly. That's just my thought. Anyway.
Yeah, dude, that was like was so fantastic to see, because, like, again, folks, for a lot of us, I first heard of and met Asajj Ventress in the original Clone Wars. Not even just
the
Dave,
Tarkovsky series.
Kenny Tarkovsky to the Clone Wars, and I was just like, to see her now where she's at, and the fact that we're seeing imagery that was done in sketches hinted at for future Clone Wars episodes that never came to be. But you see shades of this stuff happen in the Bad Batch, and in the book Dark Disciple, was very, very interesting to see, and seeing her perspective now after what she's been through about the Jedi, and even the will to like help out this kid and his dire need. And it was just so fascinating. Like, and again, I think I told this to you already. I was lucky enough at Celebration, we got to see the first episode, which was the first one where she resurrects.
Yeah, that must have been great in the theater to see with a group of people, because it was pretty impressive. Yeah, and we were like, all right, they're probably going to show us an episode. We didn't expect this one, and the way it opened, people were yelling and screaming. Especially, you could tell a lot of the women were yelling and screaming. They're like, "Oh my gosh, it's from the book!" I remember me and Busy going, look at each other, and be like, "Dude, that's from I believe that takes place right after the book." And it's just like, I was going to say, I've never read the Book of Dark Disciple. I know enough about it. People have told me enough about it. But was that sequence actually in the book, or was that an afterthought for this animated short?
I haven't read it yet either, but I've heard that like it takes place either at the very tail end or right after the book. So it means like they went out of the way to like, it's kind of funny when they do this, but they're like saying like, hey, that Darth Maul comic, it happened that we used it as canon in our heads while we're telling our stories. And so I'm the fact that they used that book as a benchmark for this. And I remember even after the Bad Batch episode, people were like, wait a minute. And they were like, just wait. We'll, in the future, we will acknowledge the events of that book one way or another.
And I'll be very faithful. And because I hadn't read the book, it didn't bother me one way or the other.
Same.
And I knew it was going to be like told, because I understood that was... It took me a second to understand that, she dies at the end of the Clone Wars era, and this is post-Clone Wars. So it became more of a curious... how is she going to come back? And I'm glad they gave it to us. What I was a little sad about was I wish they could have played on her comeback. And I know it's a short story, so it's hard to do that. If this was a half-hour episode, I would love to see a trial of how she really stepped through that veil, because that veil was a little too quick of a happening for me in the short, but I knew that I had to speed up the process of the story. I would like to imagine in my head that she went through some sort of a trial to be able to come back from there, not just a matter of being told you can step through and be mortal again. But the one thing I really loved was that when she stepped through, that she drained the swamp. Everything was wiped out, which means that A, she's probably the first one that's ever done this before, at least in that part of that realm. And B, it can't happen again. You can't just suddenly say another Dathomirian witch has survived and they can do this now. You have to go through that process that it sucks the energy out of everything else around. She is now cut off her world to anything that was related to the Night Sisters at this point, because everything got drained out. She sucked it dry when she was brought back to life.
And dude, like I was like, holy shit, there's Obi-Wan, there's Quinlan. Like, oh my gosh. And then even him, tearing up holding her.
Yeah, that was a
And
great
you know,
moment.
you see the teardrop right there, and like
Yeah.
it was driving me insane, dude. The fact
Mhm.
that like they finally confirmed, not even confirmed it, but they just like acknowledged
Yeah.
what had been teased from the books and what we had heard
Right.
from
Yeah.
the stories they weren't able to tell when Clone Wars got canceled. But they're like, he says like, I will always love you, and be like, whew, a
Yeah.
Jedi and an
Yeah.
ex Sith Padawan or Sith,
Mhm.
Sith Lord, like having a connection. That is just
Yeah.
the council right now in their graves are like, what the fuck? Holy shit! What just happened?
Now I
I
got
thought
to
it was
ask you
very
something.
sweet. Go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, when Mother Talzin kind of says you basically can't see or connect with, the person who is, who has given this love to you. Did you see that as that if they ever do connect, that some sort of bond would be broken and this ritual may fail? Or did you kind of see it as she just has to basically not allow herself to be in connection with Quinlan Voss? Because that could be a very interesting story to see play out in a future arc, because you can't imagine that they're not going to cross paths at some point in the future. And if they do, what does that mean for her deal that she made, that she cannot interact or fall back in love or whatever it may be is part of that? I don't know. How did you take that?
I think it's the latter. I think that like her realizing that she can't be with him anymore, but is trying to do good by the gift he gave her without him
Yeah.
and him realizing that teardrop and that acknowledgement was a
Right.
gift to her.
Gotcha.
And I do want it to pop up again, even if it's like ships in the night and like they don't
Yeah.
like see each other, but they're there, or at least, or maybe she does see him, but she doesn't allow herself to connect with him. And
Yeah.
in a perfect world, I would like for them at the end to connect and her to tell him I've always loved you, and be like, boom, because I think that would have that mean the world to him to be like,
Oh
she
yeah.
did say it
Yeah.
that way. Because when she's asking, the mother Tesla asked her, like, do you love him or what? I forgot what she said, but she doesn't respond, but
Yeah.
says, that's the cost, that either you can come hang out
Yes.
with us and your
Yeah.
sisters, or your heart
And
stays
that's it.
behind.
That's the exact word. The cost itself. That is the cost of it. So what prevails that cost from? What is the price that has had to be paid if you break that cost? Is more my thought. And they don't really go into any sort of detail, again, because it's a short. But
Right.
I really am curious to see a future where this might happen, and how do they write that cost into the whole lore of it and everything. So
We'll see then.
oh yeah.
And so here, because I dug the Cat Bane arc more, and I want to say, I'll say that I'll give you the floor for you to talk about this arc and what you liked it. And there's stuff I really liked about it. I prefer the Cat Bane one.
Sure. Yeah.
So what did you dig about this arc? What was your favorite episode, a favorite moment, or dialogue?
The Cat Bane.
For Asajj.
Oh, Asajj. I want to know if the kid is actually Pedro from the Clone Wars. And I say that because he gave a completely different name, but he kind of looks like an older version of Pedro, in my opinion. And the fact is, it's not the first time that Jedi's changed their name since Order 66, right?
Kanan. Caleb Doom,
Yeah,
if you will. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, that Obi-Wan Kenobi to Ben Kenobi. So yeah,
Ben Kenobi.
you've got all these Jedi who have changed their name. So why would not Pedro have changed his name? I still, in my heart of hearts, feel like the attitude of Pedro is in Lycan was his name, or Lycan, something like that. I enjoyed what that arc had to say, with Ventress being willing to take on a apprentice, and I was actually quite shocked at the end when he didn't get on the transport, and they set up the future of her story by having this Padawan at her side, even though she's not a Jedi, even though she's a powerful Force user, and I think that dynamic is quite interesting to investigate and to see how that plays out for a future story or series, because I really want that so badly. Because I do enjoy, I think more than anything, I've enjoyed Ventress's arc. She's had a beginning, a middle, and end, and now she's got a new beginning. And we only seen that kind of likes in almost like Ahsoka's end hasn't finished yet, but we've got a parallel between her and Ahsoka's, very different stories. But one I'm equally invested in as Ahsoka's. And I personally feel with Ahsoka, even if she dies, that's not the end of her story, because I feel like whatever the World Between Worlds is going to be a connection to whatever happens to Ahsoka Tano after that. And that's
even Mortis.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And that's where I'm guessing at this point is where her arc might go. And they've done the exact same thing for Ventress. And I don't look at it as a copy. I look at it as a different perspective on a character that I've enjoyed and endeared over the years of watching go through some incredible journey stories.
Yeah,
it's the benefit of
giving transformation to characters that like at first looked cool and they may or may not have known what to do with them. Yeah. And yet you bring them back and you give them a new perspective, which is why I love Maul now, thanks to him.
Yes. Yeah.
Going through becoming a crime lord. Like that element has usurped from, and I love this presence in Phantom Menace. I love it. Yeah. But him talking to the Mandalorians, you rescue me from my captivators, if you die, you will die with honor. And, him playing that up, and especially what they've hinted at with Maul Shadowlord, I'm like, that's how you know that there's more juice to this character and there's much more you can do with him.
Correct. Yeah.
And exactly. I feel the same way with Asajj Ventress. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing for me. And the last thing I'll say on that episode arc was that I very much loved the old man, the separatist. I the moment I saw the medals, I'm sitting there going, "Oh shit!" It clicked to me. It's like, "Oh, he's a separatist." Obviously, obvious reasons. And
was he from the Bad Batch?
See, I don't know if that was the same man. I
could be wrong.
So. Yeah. I need to go back and rewatch that episode because I don't think it was, because I think that'd be too on the nose and everything. But at the same time, it was like I really enjoyed. Again, very similar to that episode with Rebels when Kanan, Ezra, and Rex go up against the clones and they kind of end the clone wars in that little battlefield. I had that moment on the same thing that it became a situation. And the fact is when Ventress said we both lost, we both got it wrong.
Both sides got it wrong.
So both sides got it wrong. And when I did my reaction, I literally said those words just prior to her saying it. And it was just like, yeah, I understand what they're trying to say. And the fact that they were saying the same thing that I was feeling from the entire build up to that moment, I think was important. So that, along with the way they left it off, that it's definitely open. This is a new chance to give Ventress her own arc and own story in a time period that's still, in the Empire at the same time as where the Bad Batch exists and the same time that Maul now is going to exist. I feel like there's some opportunities there to see some really cool things from that. And I'm more invested in the idea that Ventress has a Padawan or something in the equivalent of that. How this is something new for her. And we've not seen that for this character. And I want to see that so much more than I realized I didn't thought I'd need to see. So I'm hoping that we get to see that at some point in the future.
That last episode was fun. It was really fun. And I dug that it was saying something. And I feel like I could have used that episode as a kid. And I feel like kids need that episode as well, because it's all about perspective.
Yes.
And especially that to me, one of the beautiful moments is when the old man is holding the gun and saying, it's hard to let go.
Yeah.
Finally let go of the gun. And I was just like, and he talks to the little turtle guy. And I was just like, oh, Oh,
Yeah.
I love that.
That's what I love about Star Wars animation in general. I think when they do the animated stories and they get those moments and they get those beats correct, and it's very rare that they don't get those beats correct, but when they get them correct, for the most part, I'm emotionally involved more than even some of the live action stuff for some reason. And it clicks, it resonates. So if it resonates for me as an adult, it's got to have some sort of resonation for kids, as a child watching that sort of stuff. So that they're doing the right job, or hope that they're doing the right job to get through to kids of being able to provoke that in a child, of saying, this is good and this is bad, and this is what you should be trying to do in your life, kind of thing.
And just don't always think there's one way to do it. There's almost all different ways to go about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah,
I like
exactly.
that is an easily like lesson that it can take away from an episode like that. And again, folks, we'll talk about this more in the next stream. But I gotta say that, like, for me, what they did with Bane.
I was gonna say, what made Bane for you more interesting than the Ventress arc?
Because to me it was the fact that, like, this guy grew up in the slums and had a very, like, cutthroat upbringing, and even before he fully becomes who he is, he has a moment of realization of, like, I went down a path of a different life I could have been. And it goes back to his relationship with Meero. It goes back to his relationship with the guy who like spotted him and Meero when they were kids. And I'll get into more in the next stream. But, like, to me, the ending of Cad Bane, that last episode, made me tear up. Maybe because I'm guilty for the whole father stuff. But, like, as soon as and I remember like it was hinted in the second episode. I was like, you have more to lose than you realize. I was like,
that was the mind-blowing thing that took me forever to suddenly click. And it wasn't until the kid looks up as his Bane is walking away that was like, oh, wait a minute, what the? It just didn't even click, and it should have clicked a few moments earlier. And I got quite the shock, and I'm invested in the future of Cad Bane on that arc. I do want to see how a alienated son from his father would exist in Cad Bane's world. And that's the one thing I definitely am invested in too, with that character.
And it tracks now when you see those animatics with him and Boba Fett, of, like, maybe this is why he had those moments of trying to teach Boba a little bit of something and whatnot. And I mean, this scene with Meero and him and Colby, his real name being Colby, this was heartbreaking. Like, let's go, kids, run. And then you see this guy, like, take him in, and man, to me, I don't know why this was this shot and this sequence broke me, and I was just like, oh god, those fuckers got me. And, like, the whole thing of, like, you took everything from me, and it's like, not everything. And, like, and I remember going, that is bleak, like, that is messed up, like, that is dark, man. And they did an animation, and I was just like, and this is the same writer who did the Asajj Ventress arc. Right. And he's writing the Maul series. So
the writing was great. The writing was great. Yeah. No, I think the reason why I prefer Ventress over the Cad Bane arc was that I've never been a big fan of the Western, and the reality is the Cad Bane arc is every trope
Western
you get from a Western, and it was done well. There was nothing wrong about it. It was done well. I'm just not as interested in the Western as I am the lone warrior, I guess.
And I think that's why
Ahsoka has such appeal to me too. For Cad Bane, I think he's awesome as a character, but I need more of the middle of his story. I need to see the story play out with him and Boba Fett and that relationship. And now that he has a son, that adds even more depth to who that character could be. We just haven't seen it yet. Yeah. And I do want to see that story a lot.
Yeah. And also, dude, the Kiners.
Oh, the score. My God, it was gorgeous.
Honestly,
I've been looking every day for the soundtrack to drop. It hasn't dropped yet. I'm
I've
hoping it'll be
literally been
sometime this week.
refreshing my page on his YouTube channel, being like, when's it dropping? Because,
Yeah.
and again, for me, because like you said, like, and I love Ahsoka and I love Cinder, but like to me, I grew up on westerns, and so when I would hear him using a different version of the, you know, the bounty hunter is back from Bad Batch, and then he would throw in a saxophone. Oh, that would kill me. I was just like, and so like the Kiners.
Oh, I love the score on this episode. I'm always listening out to their music in the background, and I mentioned it a couple of times in our reaction. Again, I was just like, yeah, this score is just fantastic. I cannot wait till it drops.
Yeah, folks, I think we're gonna wrap it up just because I gotta prep some stuff, and but we'll get into more of Tales of the Underworld next week. I'll do this. I think if everything goes to plan, I'll start Tales of the Underworld next stream, and then the after the first 15-20 minutes of Tales of the Underworld stuff, we'll go full on Andor to finish off the finale, because we're finishing off a show, and I think this iteration of Tales is proof that like you should do more with this, and this should be the show. Like Dave said, that this should be the one where like if a writer who's been under the wing of Filoni and Brad Rao and Jennifer Colbert and all them, like use this show to stretch out and do your work. Like this is the first stuff, and I think Matt Minovitz has been here since the Clone Wars, but like me knowing his name and knowing what he can do, this is my first time noticing what he could do as a writer, and experiencing these 6 episodes. I am pumped as hell for Maul Shadow Lord. Like I am, and I hope the Kiners do the music for Maul as well. Like
I'm pretty sure they've got all the animation under control.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Folks, thank you so much for tuning in to the Syndicate Source podcast. But more important than that, Brent, my friend, thanks so much for taking the time of your day to talk Star Wars.
Thanks for having me on.
Please plug yourself, man.
You can catch me at Age of Grogu, and that's on YouTube and Instagram and Twitter. And we do reactions. I do unboxings. I picked up a really cool one that came in the mail today. This came in the mail through. This was released on the Disney Store on May the 4th this past weekend. It arrived in the mail about an hour before our stream. So I'm going to record an unboxing. So I do unboxings and stuff like that too, of cool toys and Star Wars stuff that comes out. I'm a big collector, of course. And so you can catch me on at Age of Grogu.
Yeah, folks, go watch his reactions to Tales of the Underworld and Andor. Go watch them. Like it was like I remember like, when Tales dropped. And before we go, I'll say this: Disney, Lucasfilm, just please just do a little bit better with your release time. Like this dropped too late, and there was the whole thing with Fortnite. I was like, come on, man! Like
there was a lot dropping at the same time.
You have animation fans here. We will support your stuff. We will promote the hell out of it. Like work with us with that stuff. But hopefully next week should be a stellar stream. I'm gonna see if I can get more people in it, because there's gonna be plenty to talk about for that stream. But until then, as always, may the Force be with you, and this is the way. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, guys.